Good morning. My name is Conway Ekpo, and I had the privilege of knowing Quentin since we were sophomores in high school at Lawrence High. I learned from him that friendship means little when it's convenient. It's a lesson that I picked up from being his brother for the last 33 years. Not his blood brother, but in the end there, that distinction really didn't matter, because that was my brother. There's the family that you're born into, and for me, that's the Ekpo family I want to acknowledge is here today to celebrate Q. And if you're lucky in life, there's the family that you get to choose. And Q and I chose each other as family when we were 16 years old in an advanced chemistry class. Only two black nerds sitting in this chemistry class. And we looked around, the teacher said, it's time to pair up and get your lab partner. And so being the only two black students in the class, we found each other pretty quickly. He said, you want to be partners? Yeah, you want to be a partner? Great, let's blow something up. He had that kind of calm about him, and everybody who knows what I'm talking about, that really can only come from being battle-tested in the arena. Whether it was the sports arena or the classroom and academics, it didn't matter. Q dominated everything he set his mind to. Meeting him literally changed my life. I was a shy kid, unsure about myself, and Quentin made it cool to be smart, which put me on the path to where I am today. I'm a tech lawyer in New York City, and I can draw a direct line from where I sit today back to the encouragement that I got from my friend Quentin. He saw that in me before I even saw it in myself. And Quentin's path was not a straight line. It was more like a deliberate arc that kept bending back towards the people who needed him the most. He earned a bachelor's degree in education from Baker, and then his law degree from Washburn in 2007. And I know that year because that was the same year that I also earned my law degree. I went to go visit Quentin in 2004 when I got my acceptance, and I was excited. I hadn't seen him in a while, and I was going to share this news with him. And I went to his house to go visit him. I said, hey, guess what? I got something to tell you. He said, oh, I got something to tell you too, but you go first. I said, wait, I got accepted into law school. And then in his pocket, as if he was waiting for me to say it, he pulls out his acceptance letter and slams it down like a domino, like, I got accepted into law school too, now. He practiced law for 6 years, representing corporations in unemployment hearings, and then representing individuals at a law firm, people who were really in need. And he was good at it, really good at it. But I think at some point along the way, in dealing with the problems of his clients, he realized he could have more impact. By the time the people were coming to him as adults, life decisions had mostly been baked. I think he realized he could have more impact going back to the source, going back into childhood education. And so he left the practice of law and went back to school. This is after having gone to law school. Point of privilege really quickly. Law school took every bit of brain cell power I could muster. And this guy did all of that, passed the bar exam, practiced, and then went back to school for a master's in education at KU, and then went back after that for a PhD in education. At that point, I was like, brother, you got it. I don't have it. You're a bad man. I can't mess with you. But he never stopped learning because he never stopped believing that there was still work to be done. 3 years ago, Quentin gave an interview, and it's on YouTube. Thankfully, it's preserved for all of us who need to hear his voice again. And in this interview, he talked about the landmark legacy case, Supreme Court case of Brown versus Board of Topeka Education, the case that integrated schools in America. And he said something really profound about that time period. He said, when schools were integrated racially in America, we actually did it backwards. He said, the most capable people, who were the adults and the leaders, should have been the first people to go in and prepare the environment for the children who were going to come behind them. Instead, we didn't do that. Instead, we sent the children in first into environments that were not yet prepared for them, and environments that were hostile to them. And you can still see the trauma of the reverberations of that decision even today. And we're not talking about ancient history here, we're talking about our parents who were in these schools in the 60s and 70s. And you can see the direct line of the impact today. And he always paid attention to that. He knew that it was difficult when you don't see somebody who looks like you in a position of authority. And so Q being Q, he decided to do something about that. And that's when he went back into education. And he often talked about how the students he would come across, and he would encourage all of his students, but especially his students of color, because he could relate to them on a personal level. And he would sit with them and he would talk to them and he would ask them, hey, how your grades doing? Are you taking any advanced classes? No? You didn't know you could do that? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that college application. Let me talk to your parents. Let me talk to your counselors. That's who he was. He took a vested interest in his students. As Q described it, he said the students of color are running the same race as other students, but they've got concrete boots on their feet. And so seeing someone like Q in a position of leadership, that was the encouragement that those students needed, not just as a symbol, but somebody who had an avid presence in their lives, who saw them, as Nate just referenced. A lot of kids have dreams, Quentin would say, but in order for those dreams to become reality, it takes a community. And he would tell them, you have to put in the work. Sometimes you gotta work twice as hard. But with the support that you will get from your community, you can get there. In the book of Nehemiah, we meet a man who held a position of comfort and security in a foreign court. Nehemiah had made it by any measure. But when he heard that the walls of Jerusalem, his home city, had been broken down and the gates were burned, he wept, and then he fasted, and then he prayed, and then he went back to go do something about it. Nehemiah organized the people, and Nehemiah gave them a vision. He faced opposition for those who had interest in keeping those walls broken. And each time, and they tried to intimidate him and tell him to step down off the wall and stop doing his work. But each time, Nehemiah's answer was the same, as we see in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 6, verse 3. He would say, I am doing great work, and I cannot come down. Quentin Rials was our Nehemiah. Understand, Q had a law degree, he had options, he could have easily made a life for himself if that was what he wanted to do. But he saw that the students of Lawrence needed, and he came back deliberately to Lawrence High School to help them. Just like Nehemiah, he walked those hallways, the same hallways that he and I had walked, and all of our classmates had walked when we were there. And only this time, he had the understanding and the education to understand why those walls had been broken and what exactly it took to fix them. And like Nehemiah, he faced opposition. We talked about that all the time. But Q could not be deterred. He was doing great work, and he could not come down. When you look at the last year of Quentin's life, his algorithm, social media, tells the whole story. It's very clear. He had two loves in his life. His two daughters, Sasha and Emmy, and the school district, and the students he served. And he would not be distracted by things that did not matter. He was doing great work, and he could not come down. Q understood it's not about the degrees or the money or the bank accounts or any other superficial stuff that people use to measure their lives. He knew it was about the lives touched. Let me say that again. It's about the lives touched. And look at this room. It's a testament to exactly that philosophy. Our Lawrence High alumni, our class of 95, our KU alumni, our Washburn alumni, our Rials family. Friends and family have traveled from all far, near and far to be here because Q had an impact on them. He did the work, he fought the good fights, he loved people worth loving, and he looked at students in the eye and he told them the truth about the world and the truth about their capacity to rise within it. He loved his daughters, Sasha and Emmy, and he wanted the best for them. And Sasha and Emmy, I want you to know, I'm here to support you as well, and I'm checking in on you, okay? He made everything memorable, and I'm sure everybody here has a favorite Q story. Looking back now, I'm reminded of something I always believed, but I never felt more important than I do right now, which is the greatest gift that you can get in this life, is the chance to be truly seen by somebody else. To have someone who can walk this walk with you. Q and I did that for each other, and I'm sure he did that for a lot of you as well. This friendship means very little when it's convenient, but Q showed up during those rough times when it was very inconvenient, and that's the type of friend he was. Q was a man like Nehemiah who heard that the walls were broken, and he came back to rebuild them. And he did not come down until he was called home. And I'm gonna leave you with this. If Q were here right now, he would remind us that the work still continues. Not just in this community, but all across our nation, there are still students who are running that race with concrete boots on. And he would remind us they need our help. They need us to push them towards that advanced class. They need us to push them towards that college application. They need us to tell them about the greatness that they deserve and can have in life. In a word, they need us to see them. They need the adults and the leaders in this room to prepare the environment for all the children, including Quentin's children, Sasha and Emmy. Quentin did great work, and he has finally come down to rest. Thank you, and God bless.